Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us for Downtown Norfolk Council Coffee and Conversations with Councilmen Carlos Clanton and Councilman Jeremy McGee, so Superward 7 and Superward 6. Thanks for being with us before the snow this morning. We're going to spend about 25 minutes just with a little Q&A, and just thanks so much for being here. So make yourselves comfortable. And I'll start off by introducing the two of you. So Councilman Carlos Clanton is a lifelong resident of Norfolk. He's dedicated his career to leadership, education, and community advocacy. He previously served on Norfolk School Board, including as chair and vice chair, working to improve educational outcomes citywide. His experience spans economic development, nonprofit leadership, and civic engagement, making him a strong advocate for growth and opportunity in Norfolk. So thank you for being here. Oh, there we go, we can clap. Woo!
You gotta bring a cheerleader back.
Jeremy McGee is a business leader, entrepreneur, and longtime community advocate. He's currently president and CEO of Radiant Digital, and he has been a leader in business in the technology and real estate sectors. Jeremy has played a key role in Norfolk's business and civic landscape, serving on the Norfolk Planning Commission as president of the Ghent Neighborhood League. His passion for economic development and smart growth helps shape a vision for a thriving and inclusive city. So thank you all for being with us today. Okay, we'll start. Question number 1. Now that you're officially in your role on City Council, what are your top priorities? And we'll start with Carlos.
All right, great. Good morning, everyone. Well, I will say, and it's one of the things I'm jumping right into there, affordable housing. It's one of the major issues for me. As you know, I represent Superward 7, which is kind of like the central part of the city. It's a very large portion there, but it's a very diverse portion of our city where we have we're wealthy, affluent neighborhoods, and we have some distressed neighborhoods that are all mixed in between. So affordable housing is definitely one. And what does that look like? And that's meeting all of us. And that's from the college graduate, recent graduate who's trying to start their way to find housing, all the way to our more seasoned residents and neighbors here who have worked their entire lives and just want to be able to retire and be able to have not a whole portion of their 80% of their income going towards housing. So that's a major one for me. Economic development, workforce, and that means tying in my passion with public education and making sure that working with the school division, one of the last things that was still sitting on the table is about our consolidation plan from Norfolk Public Schools regarding buildings. There's a lot of savings, but also you constantly see it nationally, education and pupils, students who are in our daily attendance rating is consistently going down. But I want to make sure that one of the things that consistently I talked about there was about career academies, providing choice and opportunities for our students, which will then help our workforce and allow us to be able to attract new businesses and also to support those who are here. And the other thing, of course, public safety, making sure that the streets that we walk down at night and making sure that there's vibrancy within our city. And of course, resiliency, and I'll let Jeremy talk about all of that good stuff there. But of course, I'm a friend of the environment. Anytime any of us are coming down here, and as you know, we're about to have a little snowstorm. But any given day when we have a torrential rain that comes through Tidewater Drive, it literally is going through the water and driving. So it's a multitude of things, but I would encourage anyone to go to councilmenclanton.com and you'll see all the things that I'm working there. But most importantly, I'm glad to be working with my colleague here, Jeremy McGee, and all of those on City Council. So thank you for the opportunity.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for braving the elements and coming out to hear us talk for a bit. So I agree with Councilman Clanton on a lot of all of what he just said. So I think schools are absolutely a critical part of our city's future. While we can't control the schools directly, we need to play a very, very active role in partnering with the school board and making sure that our school system is on an improving trajectory. And so I'm committed to that with Councilman Clanton, the school board, and our other council members. Public safety, also a really, really big issue. So we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to continue to make sure our city's safe, that we feel safe, we are actually safe, This includes everything from gun violence all the way down to car break-ins. I'm committed to doing everything we can on council to make sure that we have the resources and we're making the investments that are necessary to continue to make our city safe. I am fortunate to be part of a council that shares that vision. So I think our council is committed to safety as a whole. They're also committed, I think, to public schools as a whole. The one area that I am really focused on that is, I think I bring a unique perspective to is making our city more business friendly. So I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've gone through our city processes. I've navigated the conditional use permit process, the building permit process, and I want to make the city of Norfolk the absolutely most business friendly city in the region. Again, I think we have council members that share that vision. Mr. Clanton shares that vision. I hope to bring boots on the ground perspective, having gone through those processes. And I think that's a super important issue. If some of you heard, and I do see a lot of friendly faces out here. Thank you for your support on the campaign trail. Many of you heard me talk a lot about this issue, even to civic leagues where I didn't see a whole lot of business owners, because I think a city that's more business friendly has more tax revenue that we can put into schools, that we can put into safety, has more jobs and more opportunities. And so I'm absolutely committed to doing everything I can to make sure we're headed in that direction.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, the Downtown Norfolk Council has been such a big advocate for arts and culture with the creation of the Neon District and everything that Carrie Ann and Byron and team do at Selden Market, but it's a bigger ecosystem. So with the closing of the Roper Theater and upcoming projects at Chrysler Hall and Scope, how is the city planning to ensure we don't lose our position as the leading cultural hub in the region?
As a member of that community here, I'm a 35-year veteran of the Virginia Opera Company. Started when I was a kid in the opera company.
Did you do some opera for us?
Yeah, it's a little early in the morning. But no, honestly, I think that Norfolk, and I just had a conversation with our deputy city manager yesterday and our city manager around that our city is definitely committed to the arts. If you look at it, we are the hub of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we've got the opera, the symphony, the stage company, hurrah players, just the gamut, just so many different things that are there. And as this transition is going on, I know that there's an active look to ensure that we don't lose any of that momentum. And so even as a member of council, I've told my colleagues that I'm going to be that champion for our arts community, because I also see it not just the arts in itself, but it is an economic generator for our area. It is a driver that for many of you all who have businesses and so forth that are down here in this area that bring people to our area. So I don't know if you've got additional you want to say to that, Jeremy?
I agree with all of that. Unlike Carlos, I have absolutely no artistic talent or ability, but I do appreciate the importance of arts and culture. I think we are the arts and culture capital of the region, and I'm committed to preserving that. From our earliest conversations with the city staff, Carlos and I have been asking, so what is our plan to make sure that when these buildings are renovated, one, to make sure that those renovations occur quickly, that they're on time, and that we're doing everything we can to mitigate the effects of those renovations, including relocating the events that would otherwise be there to other venues across the city, making sure that we're reducing the pricing on that to the extent we can, so that those events have every incentive to stay in our city, and then most importantly, making sure that we're investing in those facilities so that they have every reason to want to come back and want to have those events there in the future. So we'll be committed to that, I think, on an ongoing basis.
And I think with the Roper, weren't you all just advocating for some state support for that?
We were. Carlos and I were just in Richmond advocating for state support on a lot of different things, one of which was dollars to help support the renovation of Roper, and we'll see as the budget makes its way through the process how good we did on that.
Yeah, and definitely, and the reason why we were advocating dollars for the Roper is because it's a state building, and so the state's responsible for that one. But I think from some things that we're hearing that it may not be as big of a challenge to that one, but we will see. But I know that there's some work that's happening at the Wells Theater right now with some brickwork there, and I inquired on that one, and I know that the city's committed. The city manager said that they're focused on that one and getting that going as well. But you think of a lot of our venues, but we're taking steps to position ourselves, as Jeremy had said, for the future. When we look at Scope, we look at Chrysler Hall, those are iconic. But I think that we're putting some necessary resources in there so that we can attract new entertainment, new things that are coming in there. So it just adds to the whole ecosystem of what we're doing here in the city of Norfolk around that.
Well, that's a good transition to opportunities for growth. So as Norfolk and downtown in particular compete nationally for talent and investment, how do you think we should be positioning our city to make the most of any competitive advantages we have?
I will. So look, I think our city has a lot of competitive advantages. I moved here 20 years ago and chose to stay here because of some of those competitive advantages. We're a coastal city. We have access to the waterfront. We have the only downtown in the region. We have beaches that are a short drive away. We have a great culture, as we talked about, arts and culture. We have so much of that here in Norfolk. If you look up and down the eastern seaboard, if you look at the cities that are really thriving, Charleston, South Carolina comes to mind. Last data I looked at, that Charleston was growing at 3 times the national average. When you think about Charleston and you think about Norfolk, we're very, very, very similar. And so for me, as I think about the future, I think about harnessing all of our competitive strengths, polishing up some of our weaknesses, and we all know, and I'm sure we'll get into some of those weaknesses here in a minute, and then telling that story. But I think part of what has attracted me to the city of Norfolk and has kept me is we have all the right ingredients to be a really great, growing city. And I hope to be part of that transformation on council with my buddy Carlos here.
Well, and I'll definitely tell you, you're right about, we have with Charleston and Norfolk, because we have their ship now, right?
That's right, we got the fun.
Yeah, Jeremy and myself had the opportunity last week, now that we've got the Carnival cruise line here, year-round cruising, that's just an added benefit. And as I was talking, both Jeremy and myself, we both served on the Visit Norfolk board, and you just think at all the gems that we have here and opportunities, whether it's the casino and Harbor Park and MacArthur and all these other things here, Granby Street. There are a lot of things that will happen, but vibrancy, and I know we've had this conversation about our city, and that is making it a place that young people want to be able to come and stay, but also a place where you can build a family and also a place where you can retire. And I think we can do all of that within our city. And so I know that there's a level of commitment on that.
So that's a good transition. Talking about residents, attracting residents, keeping them here, and the amenities needed to support them. So with the completion of additional housing downtown with Gravity, Fusion, and the Greyhound site, how can the city best enable businesses to invest and open downtown to serve these residents? And you always hear about the grocery store. We know you can't personally bring the grocery store, but what can you do to get us more food downtown?
I'll take that first one.
Look, I think that's a downtown.
Okay. Yeah. Well, first, I think the city needs to stay out of the way as much as it can. That's always my answer in terms of creating opportunities for businesses. I think the city needs to not be an obstacle. And as I said earlier, I'm committed to making sure that we have a predictable, efficient process for businesses to open in our city, that we are an attractive place for the best operators to want to locate. As we think about amenities, grocery stores and otherwise, part of that is also we need enough residents downtown to support those things. And I think the redevelopment of MacArthur certainly will create an opportunity for us to bring more residents downtown. I am not an advocate of the city government getting into the grocery store business or subsidizing those kinds of operations. I want to create an environment where those operators want to be. I want to create an environment that's safe, that looks good, that feels good, that's well taken care of, and then create a process that's efficient for the best operators to get open. And I think if we do that, we will have maybe not a grocery store tomorrow, but we will have shops and small-scale retailers and other amenities. As I travel around the country, retail is not completely dead. There are cities where these types of shops and stores are opening, and I think, again, we have to create an environment downtown and in the city of Norfolk that attracts them here.
I don't have much more to add.
Okay. Well, as part of Downtown Norfolk Council, we're a member of the International Downtown Association, and that means this team travels all over the country and sometimes out of the country once a year to learn from kind of the best cities in the country of what's working, what's not working. And so we always think that a healthy city is a balanced city that has something for everyone, as you described. So let's talk about nightlife. Do you think nightlife plays an important role in the Norfolk economy? And if so, what policies would have a successful nightlife industry?
Well, I'll take that one.
Okay.
So we'll let that one. Absolutely. I think that it adds to the vibrancy. I know that our nightlife, and we kind of had some conversations around coming out of COVID and a lot of things that were going on. I'm glad that we're at a point where people can feel safe and that we're working towards that. But now I think it's time to go back and get to the table and figure out how we can work together and working with DNC and others in the Downtown Civic League to identify what do we want to have. It's important to have vibrancy, and I have a lot of, and when I say that, I'm saying that, downtown is where people want to go. And I remember as just starting off here when I worked at Bank of America when it was down here, you came to work, and downtown really was where you came to work and you left. There wasn't a whole lot. And then we went to a period where we began to have some things. I even remember as a kid growing up here when Granby Street was just a walkable mall. How many of y'all remember that? But I've also traveled around a lot, and I've talked about, what would be nice to bring back First Fridays and to do some other things and to shut down Granby Street. And I mean, everyone's looking at Mary. I'm not putting any pressure on you. But how we can be a partner in that. But just, I've been to, Tampa and San Diego and seen like Fifth Street and some of these other things where it was a destination place where people came and they knew that they were going to have a great time. And so I am definitely open. I don't have all of those answers, but I am open to having a conversation about how we can work together to bring back that sense of vibrancy. And I think it's going to take us all working together as partners to do that.
I agree with everything Carlos said. I think if you travel around and you look at the cities that are growing their population, that are keeping their young people, there's a nightlife component. There is an entertainment component. And I think we need to make sure that we haven't overcorrected for that here in downtown. We certainly need to do that well. We need to be thoughtful about where those entertainment establishments are relative to residents that are downtown. We need to continue to be very mindful of the safety component. I think there is a path forward, though, that allows us to do all of that together. Other cities are figuring that out. I think for us, it will be an iterative process, sort of stepping our way back into it. But I hope to be part of doing that in a thoughtful, pragmatic way with Carlos.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about retail and mixed use and MacArthur Center. So as we move towards one of the most impactful developments in decades for downtown, MacArthur Mall, how can the city make sure we get the best outcome?
Can I phone a friend?
No, phone a friend. All I can say is that I opened MacArthur Center. I was a kid in college, and I remember working in the store and the excitement around that one, and the years when Christmas time, and the mall would just be full. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's like the last
enclosed shopping mall built in the United States.
In the whole country. So things have changed from that one. But I think that there are a lot of great ideas that are coming forth to be able to find the next chapter for that space and how it can better connect with downtown. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to being able, when the city's ready to put some of those things out there. But anything that's going to support what is our number one economic generator for our city, which is downtown. And as I consistently talk about being able to better tell our story also about making those investments in downtown, how they better connect and support our neighborhoods throughout the city is also just as important. But I can't really say much more about that. I don't know if you've got.
Yeah, I'll build on that a little bit. So it's probably the most frequent question that I got on the campaign trail was, when are we going to get going on MacArthur? And I absolutely want to get going on MacArthur. I think it's actually more important, though, that we get MacArthur right. So what we do with MacArthur will define our downtown for the next several decades. It's been important to me that the city follow a methodical process that doesn't just lurch at the first opportunity, that brings in national developers, national talent. We're not the first city in the country to be trying to figure out how to deal with a mall that's in a declining state. And so I think we have to get it right. And so as I think about getting it right, for me, that means very much mixed use. I think there's hopefully a retail component, hopefully an opportunity to bring some housing in, hopefully an opportunity to bring in some ownership, some home ownership opportunities, which we haven't seen a whole lot of that in the last several years downtown. I think that's an important part of a healthy downtown mix. I also hope that there are opportunities to reconnect the street grid and make downtown more walkable and connected to other parts of the city. There are certainly some challenges that have to be navigated. Again, I think it's important that we take the time to navigate those challenges and make sure that 10 years from now, we're all really proud of what we've done with MacArthur. I think the other component of your question related to process, I think we might need to do a little bit of a better job in terms of transparency and public engagement on the MacArthur project. So a lot of folks, I think the reason I've got so many questions on the campaign trail is there's just not a lot of detail in terms of exactly where we are, where we're not, and I am committed to working on that as part of it as well, because I think that will get us to a better outcome. That will get us to the best possible outcome.
And Mel, if I can also add on that one in there, just to piggyback on what Jeremy was mentioning with the connectivity, we also have all the redevelopments going on across the street with St. Paul's. And when you think about the new park and some of those other things, I think that becomes an added amenity that just continues to carry across, and where you have that mixed use. And so as we're kind of looking at all those different things, Elizabeth River Trail, I know we have a representative in here, how that connects all the way through there. I think there's some great opportunities just to add a lot of additional amenities that aren't just what we're doing with the mall, but how downtown as a whole connects.
Wonderful. A little bit of focus on the office market. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, office work has still not recovered since the pandemic, leaving a lot of office space vacant across the city, particularly in downtown. We are definitely doing better than most cities and downtowns in the country, but we still have room for growth. So what can the city do to ensure we don't lose large chunks of our tax base and daily commuters who spend money at local businesses?
Well, I was sharing with Jeremy last Friday. I was meeting with our Economic Development Director, Sean, in Washington. And one of the things that one of his staffers came into the conference room was a celebration. We are bringing in a business from Chesapeake that's relocating downtown. And so it's almost, you hear about that. We lose something, we gain something in there. But what are we doing to help support the vibrancy of, hey, this is where you want to be, where you can get your workers downtown. They've got a place where they can go for a lunch break. There's a lot of different additional things there. So definitely working with economic development. I know that he's got members of his team that are focused on that. How do we retain and get businesses into our area here? So it's definitely a collaboration, and I know that I'll continue to support those efforts.
Yeah, agree with all that. I think our role as city government is to make sure our office product is the best available in the region. And as I think about the components that our city government can impact, I think about things like parking, right? So one of the biggest deterrents I hear for individuals coming downtown is the cost or complexity of parking. I've already had conversations with our city manager, and as we head into this next budget cycle, we're going to take a hard look at that. I've also been told that many of my predecessors have also taken a hard look at that, not made a whole lot of progress. I'm not deterred by that, though. I really do think it's a factor that makes filling up some of this office space difficult. It makes it difficult to retain some of the existing clients that are here. There are other places where parking is perceived to be free, and we have to figure out what our strategy is on that. We also need to make sure that the parking that exists, that's operated by the city, is easy to navigate. You can get in, you can get out, that you're not fighting with this machine or this robot or whatever, and that they look good, that they feel good, that they're taken care of. And that actually goes beyond just the parking structures. We need to make sure that our downtown looks good and feels good. DNC plays a really big role in that, and thank you for your work. I want to be part of bringing more resources from the city's perspective to support you in that. One of the things that we've been talking about with the city manager is potentially privatizing some of our landscaping for some of our corridors. So as you're heading into downtown, it needs to look well cared for, well maintained. There shouldn't be trash everywhere. Again, you all are maintaining the bid, but the coming into and going out of those areas need some love. And I think all of those things relate to one another. When an office tenant is thinking about where they want their employees to come, or they're thinking about where they want their clients to come, they want to feel good about that experience. And again, that's where I think the city can support our business owners. I also think we need to be proactive, engaging with the business community to figure out what their challenges are as their leases come up for renewal, make sure that if it's a solvable problem, we're doing everything within our power to solve it and keep them here, because it's a whole lot easier to keep tenants here than find new tenants. So probably a lot more there, but
Councilman McGee, that takes me, I think that your last comments are taking us back to a really important tenet on the campaign trail, which was you talked a lot about cleanliness, cracked sidewalks, good infrastructure, all of that. Anything else you want to say about that? That's always a big concern for downtown residents.
Yeah, I mean, Mel jokes me that I had the most boring campaign pitch ever when I talked about core city services. So the things that you depend on city government to provide, like lighting and sidewalks and infrastructure and picking up trash and making sure the trash cans are emptied in our parks and open spaces. I think all of these things are critically important, and I want to make sure that as the city is redeveloping malls and doing all sorts of other important things, that we don't lose sight of the core city services that affect quality of life, that affect property values, and also relate very much to tenants coming to downtown and tenants staying in downtown. So I'm committed to being a part of making sure that we have a good system to support those core city services. The first 45 days, a lot of that has been dealing with specific issues, some of which have been sort of rattling around within City Hall for a while. Part of the question that I'm asking, though, is how do these issues get escalated to a point where a council member has to be involved? Like, we have Norfolk Cares, we have tickets and ways to engage city government. So I haven't figured that part out yet, but I am committed to continuing to ask those questions and make sure that we have a city government that is providing city services with absolute excellence for you, the taxpayers.
Wonderful. So we are right at 9 o'clock. Thank you all. Thank you both council members.
And thanks, Mel, for moderating.
Yeah,
Really appreciate it.
thank you all so much.